if you could have been in the octagon and saw this lip, okay, he would talk and this part of the lip would move and the other part wouldn't.
It's more exciting because I showed everyone I'm a true fighter. I come to fight. No matter what happens, I keep coming, and I'm trying to knock people out.
Rory got out back. They said, what year is it? He didn't know what year it was.
Again, he goes to that head kick. Wow. How good is this?
You know, his nose got smashed in the Robbie Lawler fight. I mean, that was hard to watch. Remember when he was in agony on the ground because his nose was just shattered?
Lands it. He's hurt. He's hurt. This may be it. That's it. That's it.
Hey, I'm gonna get into the list in just a second, but I thought it would be smart for me to explain how I got the scores and, you know, how I picked the ranking for this video in the first place. I'll put the scale I use to judge any MMA fight on screen right now. Honestly, I could use it for more than just MMA, but the first scale is finishing sequence, which you can probably assume what that means is just 0 to 10, how I view the finishing sequence in a fight, which does mean if the fight does not have a finish, you know, meaning a knockout or submission, it gets a 0, and I just automatically can't rate the fight that good, you know? It can still be a really good fight, you know, like Jones Gustafson. I could keep, you know, list so many fights with decisions, which I'll get into honorable mentions later. Anyways, the next one is consistent excitement. How much does a fight consistently keep me excited just while watching it? And all four of these things are kind of up to my interpretation because at the end of the day, it is my opinion. The third one is technical showcase, and all that means to me is just, can I see that they are very intelligent with the way they are fighting? Which, if you mix that with excitement, that means they're brawling, but they're intelligently brawling, you know what I mean? Or if I see nice grappling exchanges, it's not just someone sitting on the other person. If they're actually intelligently trying to like pass guard, for example, and land strikes on top, or if they're trying to go for submissions, or if there's a reversal off the ground, or if I notice that the striking is very technical, then it gets a very high score in this because I love that portion of watching fights. The final one is how competitive the fight is. If someone just dominates and gets knocked out in 5 seconds, that's not much of a fight, is it? Like, I could bring up good fights where someone dominates, like Conor McGregor, Eddie Alvarez, that's like a notorious one. But as good as that fight is, I have another Conor fight I actually like more that I have on this list. That's probably his second greatest fight. Anyways, though, and once you compile these scores, it's a number out of 40, and then I do the math, and then I figure out what that is on 0 to 10, and that's how good the fight is. Also, one more thing just before I start, I'm going to list some honorable mentions of fights because some people might be mad that their favorite fight isn't on this list, but you know, this list is factual if I say it, so you can't really disagree, but I'm still going to list those fights anyways.
Back. Oh, he cracked him. He's hurt. Choice.
Anyways, the first fight I want to bring up is Doo-Ho Choi versus Cub Swanson, except for the part where Joe Rogan says,
"This kid can crack."
That was very weird. Another fight that has to be brought up when you bring up honorable mentions is Dustin Poirier, Dan Hooker. Many people put this in their top 5, but it goes to decision. So I automatically can't do that. I can't put it in the top 5 for that reason. Though I will state that it probably has the greatest round of all time.
Nice turning side kick. Oh, and good head kick with the knee. Oh.
And the next fight I want to bring up is Stephan Bonner versus Forrest Griffin. As much as I understand what it did for the UFC at the time, I've heard people like Dana say that it saved the promotion from bankruptcy. I understand all of this, but again, it went to decision.
And the crowd loving it. Footwork and movement.
The next one I want to bring up is Dominic Cruz versus Cody Garbrandt. Cody's performance was iconic in this fight, but it also went to decision. In this next fight I'm going to bring up was very close to making the list. It just barely didn't. And it's Glover Teixeira versus Yair Prochazka. The grappling exchanges were just crazy between them, but it just doesn't quite stack up to the top 5 I've made so far. There are lots more fights you can bring up. There might be fights in the comments that people bring up, but those are the ones that came to mind while I was writing this. And just before I get into the main list, if at any time you start enjoying the video, I try to make 2 to 3 videos a week, so consider subscribing. Anyways, now that we have that stuff over with, here we go with the list.
Excellent at this. This is his technique.
And for the number 5th fight, I put Chad Mendes versus Conor McGregor. It has an incredible finish. Of course, not as great as Yair Rodriguez's finish against the Korean Zombie, but the way he fought to get back up on his feet after being taken down time after time by Chad Mendes, and he just knocked him out, it was very good. And that's why I gave the consistency when it comes to the excitement 8 out of 10. The technical showcase easily was an 8 out of 10 because of that, because Conor had to navigate the takedowns, and Chad Mendes had to work to keep Conor on the ground. And the fact that he was able to get Conor down and kind of beat him up on the ground is why I gave an 8 out of 10 on the competitiveness, which would be a 33 out of 40 or an 8.5 out of 10.
Man, the Korean Zombie, if you're flipping channels. Let's end this. Stop shaking hands. Let's go.
For the number 4 spot, we got Yair Rodriguez versus the Korean Zombie, or Chan Sung Jung. And as you can see, I put it as an 11 out of 10 on the finish because it's the greatest finish of all time. It just has to be. The way Yair rolled under something and came up with his elbow, rocked Korean Zombie, and knocked him out in the final 5 seconds of the fight, it's just incredible how he was able to do that. So because it's the greatest of all time, I had to give it an 11 out of 10. And I gave it a 7 out of 10 on consistency when it comes to how exciting it is, because they were exchanging the whole time. But of course there are many other fights I can bring up to that consistently they are swinging, though I will say it was very technical. That's why I gave it an 8 out of 10, and it was very competitive. That's why I gave it an 8 out of 10. And the score is a 34 out of 40, is roughly 8.75 out of 10.
Power area, Robbie. Oh, blocked out, but he might have hurt him. Yeah, he's staggered.
And for the 3rd greatest fight of all time, it's probably expected that this is going to be on the list. And this is for most people the greatest fight of all time. I slightly disagree, but it is just incredible. And it's Robbie Lawler versus Rory McDonald 2. From the start, Robbie was kind of dominating Rory. He broke his nose early on in the fight. The damage early on was showing so much for Rory. But then when he came back in that 3rd round, it totally turned the tide of that fight. And that's why I give the consistent excitement a 9. And the way Rory's Muay Thai skills show, and real close up against the cage when he's throwing those elbows against Robbie, and the way that Robbie was able to pick Rory apart from distance, it easily got itself a 9 on technical showcase. In the way it went back and forth, I think easily deserved it a 10 out of 10 on competitiveness, which would leave it with a 35 out of 40 or an 8.75 out of 10. That might not sound that high to many people, but I'm very harsh when it comes to ratings. So.
Oh, there's a right hand. Gaethje's still on his feet. He may not know where he is.
And for the 2nd greatest fight of all time, I actually have Michael Johnson versus Justin Gaethje. And for Justin Gaethje's first UFC fight ever, I understand completely why he rose up the lightweight rankings so quickly. The way he's able to just get rocked and recover about 2 or 3 times in the fight, then come back and knock out Michael Johnson. It's why I gave it a 10 out of 10 on competitiveness. It's unseen. That kind of thing is unseen in MMA. And that's why I give it a 10 out of 10 consistency, because Justin Gaethje throughout his entire career has stayed so violent in every fight he's been in. And that finish easily deserves a 9. Though the striking wasn't as technical as I've seen some, they're still very skilled athletes, of course. So it still gets a 7 out of 10, which ends up as a 36 out of 40, or the first 9 out of 10, exactly.
And landing the shots.
And for what I consider the greatest fight of all time is Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier. That finishing sequence is easily a 10 out of 10. The way Dustin Poirier throws combinations after he realizes his opponent is hurt is unlike anything else, and that finish shows that. And throughout the fight, Conor was kind of picking him apart at distance, but Dustin was beating up that leg with calf kicks. It was pretty fun to watch before the finish. And it's easily a 10 out of 10 when it comes to technical ability, because it really felt like they were both trying to read each other the entire time. And I give it a 9 out of 10 when it comes to competitiveness, because Conor was kind of picking apart Dustin with his hands before Dustin figured out, before Dustin knocked him out, which would leave it with a 37 out of 40, which would be a 9.25 out of 10. I don't think there's much more to say. Those are, factually, the 5 greatest fights of all time. Okay. Bye-bye. Have a good rest of your day.